You ever notice how your own body betrays you before your mind catches up? The little tremors in your hands, the way your heartbeat doesn't keep the same rhythm it used to. The ache is in places you didn't even know existed. People call it age, stress, hormones, whatever makes them feel safe. But what if it isn't just decay? What if it's preparation? What if the cracks, the shifts, the strange pulses in your skin aren't signs of weakness, but signals of transformation? Your body is smarter than you think. Smarter than your excuses, smarter than your denial, smarter than the little stories you tell yourself to stay comfortable. You believe it's random, don't you? The fatigue that shows up out of nowhere, the sleepless nights, the strange heaviness that won't leave your chest. You chalk it up to bad habits, bad timing, bad luck. But bodies don't deal in coincidence. They're instruments tuned to pick up signals long before your brain has the courage to process them. And when something big is approaching, your body starts rearranging itself in ways you can't explain. It's not an accident. It's an announcement. Think about it. When fear crawls in, does your heart not race before your mouth admits you're scared? When excitement builds, does your pulse not speed up before you even recognize what you're feeling? The body always knows before the mind catches up. That's the cruel little secret most people ignore. They wait for logic to explain what their skin, their breath, their bones already know. They want to analyze, categorize, rationalize. Because admitting the body might be right terrifies them. Because if the body is right, then change isn't optional, it's inevitable. And oh, how you fight it. You medicate the pain, distract the mind, numb yourself with noise. But the signals don't stop. They grow louder. That's what those sudden jolts of energy are. That restless twitch in your muscles, that pounding in your chest that shows up when nothing is wrong. It's the system screaming, preparing, gearing up for something your conscious mind is too slow to acknowledge. Your body is rewriting itself in real time, adapting for what's ahead. And the only reason it feels so uncomfortable is because you're still clinging to the old blueprint. But here's the beauty. You can't stop it. You can resist, delay, complain, but the shift is already happening. Your body doesn't ask permission. It obeys a command far deeper than your comfort zone. And the more you try to ignore it, the more it drags you along. Sometimes with subtle nudges, sometimes with violent shocks. A fever here, a chill there, aches that force you to slow down. Bursts of strength that feel unnatural. All of it is part of the redesign. You think it's breakdown, but it's breakthrough disguised in flesh and bone. Funny thing is, most people only recognize it in hindsight. They'll look back and say, "Oh, that's why I couldn't sleep. That's why I felt like I was crawling out of my own skin." But you don't get hindsight now. You get the raw, unfiltered chaos of the moment. You get the buzzing energy that makes you feel like you're too big for the body you're in. And that's because you are. You're outgrowing it. The body is making room for a version of you that doesn't fit in the old patterns. That's why it hurts. That's why it feels unstable. Growth is violent. Transformation is invasive. It doesn't knock. It tears down the walls from the inside. So while you're panicking, calling it stress or weakness, understand this. Your body is giving you the first warnings, the first signs. It's not betraying you, it's preparing you. You've been set up for something larger than the shell you've been living in, and the evidence is in the tremors, the aches, the sudden surges of strength you don't know how to handle. Those aren't accidents, they're signals. And signals aren't meant to be ignored. They're meant to be followed. Because the body doesn't whisper without reason. It only speaks when change is already on its way. Pain is the most misunderstood messenger in existence. Everyone runs from it, curses it, medicates it, hides it under layers of excuses and distractions. But pain was never the enemy. Pain is the signal flare in the dark. The burning torch shoved in your hands to remind you that something is shifting. You think it's punishment, but it's preparation. You think it's breaking you down, but really it's chiseling away at the weaker parts of you. Stripping off the excess weight you've been dragging around, cutting into the shell you thought was safe. Pain is the sculptor, and you are the stone. It hurts because pieces of you are being carved away, but what emerges is sharper, clearer, stronger than the block you started with. And yet, most people refuse to see it this way. They treat pain as proof they've done something wrong. They panic, thinking life has turned against them, that fate is cruel, that the body is betraying them. But betrayal doesn't feel like this. Betrayal is sudden, sharp, and final. Pain lingers, repeats, insists. Betrayal wants you broken. Pain wants you ready. And there's a difference. Every time your body aches, every time you stumble under the weight, something is being built beneath the surface. The strain is the rehearsal. The grinding is the training. You can't lift heavier without first trembling under the weight you're not used to. That trembling, that ache, is the proof that your system is stretching to carry more than it did before. But of course, people hate the process. They want the transformation without the tearing. They want the results without the burn. They want to wake up strong without ever feeling weak. And that's why they never change. Because real change doesn't come gift wrapped in comfort. It comes disguised as discomfort, cloaked in struggle, hidden inside the very thing you've been avoiding. That cramp in your chest, that restlessness that keeps you awake, that fire that makes your bones feel too hot for your skin. That's the hammer at work, pounding the dullness out of you. That's the furnace blazing, melting down the old so the new can be forged. And isn't it funny? The very thing you pray to escape is the very thing sculpting you into what you were meant to be. You want the blessing without the bruises, but the bruises are the blessing. Because without them, you'd stay soft, fragile, untested. Without them, you'd stay stuck in the illusion that comfort is safety, when in reality, comfort is the trap. Pain rips the mask off. It forces you to look at the parts of yourself that have gone lazy, the habits that are rotting you from the inside, the weaknesses you've excused for too long. It drags them out and puts them under a spotlight until you either break or rise. And rising isn't optional if you let the pain do its work. That's the secret people never tell you. If you lean into it, if you stop fighting and start listening, pain becomes a guide. It points to the exact area of your life that's transforming. The muscle that screams is the one growing. The scar that burns is the one healing. The wound that stings is the one being closed. You don't run from that. You lean in because it means the process is working. But instead, people drown it. They numb themselves with pills, with screens, with distractions, thinking if they can't feel it, it'll go away. But numbing doesn't erase the process. It only delays it. And when the pain comes back, and it always does, it comes sharper, louder, angrier. Because you tried to mute a message that was never meant to be silenced. Pain is relentless like that. It will circle back again and again until you either surrender to the process or shatter under the weight of resistance. So when you feel it, the pressure in your bones, the stretching in your lungs, the ache in your muscles, stop calling it weakness. Stop calling it punishment. Start calling it preparation. Because that's exactly what it is. Pain doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to prepare you for what's next. And if something big is coming, if a shift is waiting just beyond the horizon, then pain isn't here to scare you off. It's here to toughen your skin, sharpen your reflexes, and remind you that you were never built to stay the same. Change doesn't arrive politely at your doorstep, dressed in silk and carrying flowers. No, it kicks down the door, uninvited, dragging chaos into your living room and rearranging everything you thought was stable. People pretend they like change when it's safe, when it's cosmetic, when it makes them look good without demanding too much. A new haircut, a different outfit, a shiny gadget. That's the kind of change they clap for. But the real kind, the kind that rattles your bones, scrapes your soul raw, forces you to confront the ugly truths you've buried under layers of lies. That kind of change terrifies them. And yet, that's the only change that matters. The kind that flips your world upside down and demands you learn how to walk on the ceiling. Because comfort keeps you in chains. You think you're free, but you're not. You're just trapped in a prison that feels cozy. The walls are painted with routine, the bars are shaped like habits, and the lock is disguised as safety. You've convinced yourself it's where you belong, but it's not. That prison was never built to keep you safe. It was built to keep you small. And change, real change, is the jailbreak. Pain is the crowbar. Chaos is the accomplice. Together, they rip you out of that cage and drag you into a world you've never dared to imagine. But oh, how people resist. They cling to the bars, screaming for the door to stay shut. They fight for the very chains that are choking them. They cry about the storm, begging for the skies to clear, not realizing that the storm is what waters the seeds they never planted. Change is not polite, but it is purposeful. It doesn't care about your comfort. It cares about your evolution. And if that means tearing your illusions apart piece by piece, it will. If that means taking away the things you swore you couldn't live without, it will. If that means shoving you to your knees so you can finally rise differently, it will. And the body, oh, the body is the battlefield where this war plays out. Every ache, every twitch, every shiver in your bones is the sign that something is shifting. The energy that once felt steady begins to surge like electricity, restless, untamed. You feel exhausted but awake, heavy but alive, broken but strangely whole. That's the paradox of transformation. It destroys you and rebuilds you in the same breath. And just when you think you can't take any more, you realize the old version of you has already been buried, and something unrecognizable is crawling out of the dirt. But people call it suffering. They call it unfair. They label it as misfortune, never stopping to realize it's the only way forward. Growth doesn't ask for permission. It demands sacrifice, and it takes it whether you're ready or not. You lose pieces of yourself, old patterns, stale relationships, familiar environments, because they cannot survive where you're going. They were built for who you were, not who you are becoming. And you either let them go willingly, or change will rip them from your hands, leaving you bleeding, screaming, clawing at ghosts that no longer exist. And that's the cruel joke of it all. You don't get to negotiate. You don't get to schedule change for when it's convenient. It doesn't care if you're tired, if you're broke, if you're unprepared. It arrives like fire, consuming everything in its path. And you either run from the flames, or you let them burn away what's weak. And those who survive, they walk out of the ashes unrecognizable, unbreakable, untouchable. The scars become proof that they've been remade. The pain becomes the story carved into their skin. But the truth is, most won't make it that far. They'll fight against the current until they drown. They'll beg for the old life, never realizing it's already dead. They'll patch broken walls instead of building new foundations. They'll cling to the illusion of stability until it crushes them, because it's easier to suffer in the prison you know than to risk freedom in the chaos you don't. And yet, for the few who dare, for the ones who lean into the storm, who let the pain do its work, who stop resisting and start surrendering, change becomes the greatest ally they never asked for. It strips them of weakness, reveals the strength they didn't know was there, and molds them into something the old version of them could never even dream of. Because the body isn't just changing, the soul is mutating. The spirit is recalibrating, and when it's finished, you don't walk through life the same way. You tear through it. Funny thing about strength. People think it looks like muscles, big voices, or someone standing tall in front of a crowd pretending they've got it all figured out. That's not strength. That's costume work. Real strength is what nobody claps for, the kind that bleeds in silence when the lights are off. It's when your whole body aches, your mind screams, your spirit whispers to give up, and yet, for reasons you can't even explain, you take one more step. Not 10, not 20, not a grand leap for the world to admire, just one. A pathetic, almost invisible step. That's strength. That's power. That's the kind of thing heaven notices, even when the world doesn't. See, life has this cruel habit of testing you when you're at your weakest. It waits until you're hanging by a thread, then adds more weight, laughing as it watches you squirm. That's the game, and most people break there. They cry, they beg, they curse their fate, and eventually they lie down and call it the end. But not you. Oh, no, you're still breathing, aren't you? That means the fight isn't over. That means something inside you refuses to surrender, even when surrender feels easier. And that stubborn little spark, that defiance, is what separates survivors from statistics. But let me tell you the truth, strength doesn't always feel strong. Sometimes it feels like you're dragging your own corpse uphill. Sometimes it feels like your chest is caving in, your mind is poisoned with doubts, and the only thing keeping you upright is sheer spite. People expect strength to feel glorious, like some heroic soundtrack should play while you battle through your struggles. It doesn't. It feels dirty. It feels lonely. It feels unfair. But it's real. And real strength is never pretty. It's forged in the dark, hammered by suffering, sharpened by failure, and polished with scars. You've been through enough to know this by now. Haven't you noticed? Every time you thought it was over, every time you swore you couldn't take another hit, you did. Life knocked you down, spat in your face, and buried you 6 feet under in despair. And yet, somehow, you crawled out. You dragged yourself through the dirt, blind and broken, and stood again. That's not weakness. That's proof. Proof you're more dangerous than the pain that tried to destroy you. And maybe you don't see it yet, but others do. They look at you and wonder how you're still standing. They can't comprehend the battles you fought in silence, the wars nobody gave you credit for, the nights you screamed into the void, but woke up anyway. They can't see the invisible weight on your shoulders, but they notice how you carry it like it's nothing. And here's the secret. They envy it. They envy the strength they could never build because they never had the courage to walk through the fire like you did. Strength isn't about avoiding the fall. It's about how many times you hit the ground and still refuse to stay there. That's why the scars matter. That's why the wounds, the failures, the humiliations, they all count. They're receipts, evidence that you've been tested, broken, and rebuilt stronger than before. The ones who look perfect, they haven't lived. They haven't been gutted by life yet. They haven't been through hell, so they don't know what it means to rise from the ashes. You do. And don't be fooled into thinking strength is about never feeling weak. No, it's about what you do when you're weak. When your body screams for rest. When your mind whispers that you're worthless. When your heart feels empty. What then? Do you collapse? Or do you crawl? Because crawling forward, bleeding, crying, gasping, that's strength. That's what builds legends. Not the big victories, not the trophies, not the applause. The moments no one sees. The battles fought in silence. The nights survived alone. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you've been set up like this. Maybe that's why life keeps pressing down on you, suffocating you, testing your limits. Because it knows something you don't. It knows what's waiting on the other side of all this pain. It knows the kind of force you'll become when the weight doesn't crush you, but molds you instead. And it knows you're stubborn enough, reckless enough, resilient enough to make it through. So every tear you've shed, every bruise on your soul, every scream you've swallowed, it hasn't been wasted. It's the price of becoming unshakable. It's the down payment on the future that fear wanted to steal from you. And while others collapse under pressure, you've been quietly building endurance, carving out a strength that won't just carry you through, but carry others too. Because people like you don't just survive, you redefine survival. Funny thing about pain, most people treat it like a curse, like some cruel punishment they don't deserve. They run from it, medicate it, bury it under distractions, anything to pretend it isn't there. But pain is a teacher that doesn't ask for your permission. It barges in, sits you down, and shoves the lesson into your bones whether you're ready or not. And here's the trick key. What hurts you also shapes you. Every scar, every ache, every wound that burned you alive left something behind. Something stronger, something sharper, something real. You think you survived by accident. No. You survived because pain sculpted you into someone who could. It stripped away your illusions, shattered your pretty little expectations, and left you raw, exposed, and uncomfortable. And in that discomfort, you learned. You learned that people leave, no matter what they promise. You learned that love can break you just as easily as it can heal you. You learned that failure isn't the end, but a bloody beginning in disguise, and all of that came from pain. Without it, you'd still be soft, naïve, fragile. With it, you've become something much harder to kill. Think about the moments that really changed you. Were they when everything was going well, when life was sweet and easy? No. Comfort never transforms anybody. It keeps them small. The fire came when you were bleeding, when you were lost, when you had no choice but to crawl through the ashes of what you thought you were. Pain forces reinvention. It rips away who you used to be so it can make room for who you're supposed to become. And that process, it's brutal, but necessary. The funny part is, while you're in it, you curse it. You ask, why me? As though life hands out suffering by mistake. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't a mistake. Maybe the pain was designed to break off the parts of you that couldn't carry what's coming. Maybe it was sent to strip you down, to expose the steel underneath the flesh, to prepare you for a life bigger than the one you were settling for. Pain doesn't waste itself. It always has a purpose, even if you can't see it when you're in the middle of it. And notice how pain makes you pay attention. When you touch fire, you don't forget. When someone betrays you, you remember. Pain etches lessons into your skin, so deep you couldn't erase them if you tried. That's why you're sharper now, wiser, harder to fool. It cost you tears, sleepless nights, and heartbreak to earn that kind of clarity. But now Now you walk into rooms with an awareness you didn't have before. You can spot lies quicker, sense danger earlier, and protect yourself better. All because pain trained you. What's wild is that pain also exposes who you really are. It strips away the fake smiles, the masks you wear for the world. In suffering, you meet the real version of yourself. The one who either collapses or crawls forward. The one who either quits or claws out of the grave. And you're still here. Which means pain didn't just crush you. It revealed you. It revealed your capacity to endure, your ability to rebuild, your willingness to keep breathing, even when breathing hurt. That's who you are when everything else is burned away. But pain isn't just about you. It changes how you see others too. Because once you've bled, you recognize the wounds in someone else. You can see the smile that hides despair. Hear the tremor in their laugh. Notice the heaviness in their silence. Pain gives you empathy that comfort never could. It teaches you to look deeper, to understand that everyone is carrying something invisible, and that makes you dangerous in the best way. Because you can connect with people at their most human level. Most people will spend their lives running from pain, never realizing they're running from their own growth. But you've walked through it. You've felt its bite, its sting, its suffocating grip. And because of that, you carry something rare, wisdom earned through fire, resilience carved through suffering. You know things others can't even imagine, and that knowledge will follow you, guide you, protect you. Pain, for all its cruelty, has been your secret weapon. It turned you into someone no storm can easily break.